It's rain. So we will be reading from Krishna book, volume 2, the chapter Lord Balram's touring the sacred places. Let me see where we have it. Yes. I'll read a couple of lines to bring up to the speed. This is the same Dandakaranya forest where Lord Ramchandra lived while he was in exile. Lord Balram next came to the bank of river Narmada, the biggest river in central India. On the bank of the sacred Narmada, there is a pilgrimage spot known as Mahispatipuri. After bathing there, according to the regulatory principles, Lord Balram returned to Prabhas Tirth, where from he had begun his journey. So now we will continue. When Lord Balram returned to Prabhas Tirth, he heard from the Brahmanas that most of the Kshatriyas in the battle of Kurukshetra had been killed. Balram felt relieved to hear that the burden of the world had been reduced. Lord Krishna and Balram appeared on this earth to lessen the burden of military strength created by the ambitious Kshatriya kings. This is the way of materialistic life, not being satisfied by the absolute necessity of life. People ambitiously create extra demands, never-ending demand, and their illegal desire. Why we use the word illegal? Because in Nectar of Instruction, no, Isopanishad, there is a verse that, we should use only the quota that has been assigned for us, the rest of it knowing whom it belongs. That's why it's called illegal. By the laws of God, appearing as famine, war, pestilence, and similar catastrophes, Lord Balram heard that although most of the Kshatriya had been killed, the Kurus were still engaged in fighting. Therefore, he returned to the battlefield just one day. Bhimsena and Duryodhana were engaged in a personal duel. As well-wisher of both of them, Lord Balram wanted to stop them, but they would not stop. The scene, King Yudhishthir and his younger brothers Nakul, Sahadev, Lord Krishna and Arjuna immediately offered him the respectful obeisances, but they did not speak at all. The reason that they were silent was Lord Balram was somewhat affectionate toward Duryodhana, and Duryodhana had learned from Balramji the art of fighting with a club. Thus, when the fighting was going on, King Yudhishthir and others thought that Balram might come there to say something in favor of Duryodhana, and they therefore remained silent. Both Duryodhana and Bhimsena were very enthusiastic in fighting with clubs, and in the midst of large audiences, each was very skillfully trying to strike the other. And while attempting to do so, they appear to be dancing. But although they appeared to be dancing, it was clear that both of them were very angry. So Lord Balram wanted to stop the fighting, said, "My dear King Duryodhana and Bhimsena, I know that both of you are great fighters and are well known in the world as great heroes. But still, I think that Bhimsena is superior to Duryodhana in bodily strength. On the other hand, Duryodhana is superior in the art of fighting with the club. Taking this into the consideration, my opinion is that neither of you is inferior to others in fighting. Under the circumstances, there is a very little chance of one of you being defeated by the other. Therefore, Balramji says, I request you not to waste your time in fighting in this way. I wish you to stop this unnecessary fight." The good instruction given by Lord Balram to both Bhimsena and Duryodhana was intended for the equal benefit of both of them. But they were so enwrapped in anger against each other that they could only remember their long-lasting personal enmity. Each thought only of killing the other, and they did not give much importance to the instructions of Lord Balram. When person is angry, that's what it happens. No matter how good the advice you give, when the people are angry, they can't listen. So each thought only of killing the other, and they did not hear the instruction of Balram. And both of them then became like a madman in remembering the strong accusations and ill behavior they had exchanged with one another. Good thing they always forget. Lord Balram, being able to understand the destiny which was awaiting them, was not eager to go further in the matter. Therefore, instead of staying, he decided to return to the city of Dwarka. When he returned to Dwarka, he was received with great jubilation by relatives and friends, headed by King Ugrasena and other elderly persons. All of them came forward to welcome Lord Balram. After this, he again went to the holy place of pilgrimage at Naimisharanya. And the sages, saintly person and brahmanas all received him standing. They understood that Lord Balram, although a Kshatriya, was now retired from the fighting business. So the brahmanas, the sages, who were always for peace and tranquility, were very pleased at this. All of them embraced Balram with great affection and induced him to perform various kind of sacrifice in that sacred spot of Naimisharanya. Actually, Lord Balram had no business performing the sacrifice recommended for ordinary human being. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore, he himself is the enjoyer of all such sacrifices. As such, his exemplary action in performing sacrifice was only to give a lesson to the common man, to show how one should abide by the injunctions of the Vedas. The Supreme Personality Godhead Balram instructed the sages and saintly person at Naimisharanya on the subject matter of the living entities' relationship with this cosmic manifestation. on how one should accept this whole universe and on how one should relate with the cosmos in order to achieve the highest goal of perfection. The understanding that the whole cosmic manifestation is resting on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also all pervading, even within the minute atom by the function of his Paramatma future. Lord Balram then took the Avbhuta bath, which is accepted after finishing sacrificial performances. After taking his bath, he dressed himself in new silken garments and decorated himself with beautiful jewelry amidst his relatives and friends. He appeared to be shining full moon amidst the luminaries in the sky. Lord Balram is the personality of Godhead, Ananta himself. Therefore, he is beyond the scope of understanding by mind, intelligence, or body. He descended exactly like a human being and behaved in that way for his own purpose. We can only explain his activities as the Lord pastimes. No one can even estimate the extent of the unlimited demonstrations of his pastimes because he is all powerful. Lord Balram is the original Vishnu. Therefore, anyone remembering this pastime of Lord Balram in the morning and in the evening will certainly become a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus his life will become successful in all respects. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the second volume, 24th chapter of Krishna, the liberation of Balvala and Lord Balram during the sacred places. Chapter 25, Meeting of Lord Krishna with Shrudama Brahman. King Parikshit was hearing the narration of the pastime of Lord Krishna and Lord Balram from Sukadeva Goswami. These pastimes are all transcendentally pleasurable to hear, and Maharaj Parikshit addressed Sukadeva Goswami as follows. If we listen carefully, those questions will come in our mind. So here Parikshit Maharaj is asking, my dear Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the bestower of both liberation and love of God simultaneously. Anyone who becomes a devotee of the Lord automatically attains liberation without having to make a separate attempt. It's a byproduct. The Lord is unlimited, and as such, his pastime and activities for creating, maintaining, and destroying the whole cosmic manifestations are unlimited. I therefore wish to hear about his other pastime of which you may not have spoken as yet. My dear Master, the conditioned souls within this material world have been frustrated by searching out the pleasure of happiness derived from sense gratification. Such a desire for material enjoyment are always piercing the heart of the conditioned souls. But I'm actually experiencing how the transcendental topic of Lord Krishna's pastimes can relieve one from the state of being affected by such sense gratificatory material activities. I think that no intelligent person can reject this method of hearing the transcendental pastime of the Lord again and again. Simply by hearing, one can remain always steeped in transcendental pleasure. Thus, one will not be attracted by material sense gratification. When we become attached to Krishna, then the deep-rooted attachment, like Maharaj Parikshit, he was able to give up. That those attachment even never arose in the heart in the future. That extent, Maharaj Parikshit was able to give up. Why? Because we see the 7 days and 7 nights didn't eat anything, didn't drink anything, never went to take a sleep, constantly hearing the wonderful pastime of Krishna. So in this statement, Maharaj Parikshit has used two important words, Visanna and Visesanjana. Visanna means morose. The materialistic persons are inventing many ways and means to become fully satisfied. And we see it's ever ending. But actually they remain morose. The point may be raised that sometimes those who are transcendentalists, who remain morose, Parikshit Maharaj has used, however, the word Visesanjana. There are two kinds of transcendentalists, namely the impersonalist and the personalist. Visesanjana refer to the personalist, who are interested in transcendental variegateness. The devotees become jubilant by hearing the descriptions of the personal activity of the Supreme Lord, whereas the impersonalists, who are actually more attracted by the impersonal feature of the Lord, are only superficially attracted by the personal activity of the Lord. As such, in spite of coming in contact with the pastime of the Lord, the impersonalists do not fully realize the benefit to be derived, and thus they remain in exactly the same morose position due to fruitive activity with the materialistics. King Parikshit continued, quote, the capacity for talking can be perfected only by describing the transcendental quality of the Lord. This is what Sanatana Goswami says, Mona. Mona means not that we shouldn't speak anything, but we should speak only related to Krishna and the service of Krishna and how to attain the love of Krishna. All of the talks are we should be refrained from. The capacity for working with one's hand can be successful only when one engages himself in the service of the Lord with those hands. Similarly, one's mind can be pacified only when he simply thinks of Krishna in full Krishna consciousness. This does not mean that one has to be very thoughtful, but one simply has to understand that Krishna, the absolute truth, is all pervasive and by his localized aspect of Paramatma. If only one can think that Krishna as Paramatma is everywhere, even within the atom, then one can perfect the thinking, feeling, and willing function of his mind. And the perfect devotee does not see the material world as it appears to the material eyes, but he sees everywhere the presence of his worshipable Lord in his Paramatma future. Haribol, unquote. So Maharaj Pariksit, oh, 7:05. Haribol, we should stop. Devotee may have to perform the duty. So we should stop here, and I would like to offer my humble obeisances at the desk of these wonderful Vaishnavas who take austerity to get up early in the morning and try to give their kind association to all of us. We should remain grateful. And as I said, from today, we will continue our chanting until 8 o'clock.